All right, guys, welcome to the show. Today, we're going to have some fun. So we have, yet again, Fox hosts jumping the shark. Apparently, Joe Biden is worse than Benito Mussolini, according to one particularly annoying and high-pitched Fox host. We'll get to that. Later on in the show, I have Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump have now clarified their position on the issue of Ukraine. That's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff to take away from that. And also the other Republican candidates weighed in too, like Vivek Ramaswamy weighed in. Not that Vivek Ramaswamy. We don't really care what he has to say, but funny enough, you know what his answer was on what's your position on Ukraine? He said, we should invade Mexico. I'm not kidding. That's his answer actually had in there, like, we need to focus on, like, taking out the drug cartels. Jesus Christ, man. And then you want to talk about fun, later on today, we will be discussing some say it's a controversial theory. Some say it's controversial. Does Joe Biden have body doubles? Body doubles. Okay. So we'll jump to that in a second. Or not in a second. Later on in the show. But before I continue, everybody do me a quick favor. Click that subscribe button. We're getting closer and closer and closer to 1 million subs. We want to do a celebratory stream when we hit 1 million subs. Trying to get there ASAP, man. I mean, I think the window is anywhere between a month and 3 months we'll be able to get there, but maybe we could break that. Maybe we could do it in like a week or two. If you guys all just click that subscribe button, maybe we'll cruise. I'm just saying, maybe we will. So anyway, hook a brother up. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. So Mark Levin is, without a doubt, one of the most annoying Fox hosts. And that's a difficult thing to pull off. It really is. Because they're all kind of smug and obnoxious. But Levin has a tendency to go way too far, way too often, and also make no sense. Well, here's a great example of that here. He's going to talk about Joe Biden and the comparison he makes and the arguments he uses. This is just something else.
But I think he's more Herbert Hoover. And moreover, he takes these autocratic powers. You know, at least Mussolini got the trains to run on time. This jerk can't get the trains to run on time or the airlines to fly on time or anything to be done on time, as a matter of fact. I'm very troubled by this because he's proposed a $6.9 trillion budget, which is massive, with almost $5 trillion in tax increases. He plays this Marxist class warfare crap about the rich versus the poor, which accommodates nothing. That doesn't bring food prices down. It doesn't bring gasoline prices down. It doesn't get crime off our street. It doesn't secure the border. It doesn't do any of those things. He's constantly throwing shiny objects out there for people to chase, when in fact, he's the shiny object that we need to stay focused on. He is a one-man wrecking ball that has destroyed so much that is good with this country. And he's not done. He's not a moderate. He is Bernie Sanders in Joe Biden's face mask. That's what he is. He's a radical. And by being a radical, he's destroyed this country. Now, we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This bank was essentially a Democrat Party bank. It was doing everything the Democrat Party wants all of our financial institutions to do, all of our businesses to do, which is this idiotic diversity, equity, inclusion, which is against diversity, against real equality, and certainly against inclusion. They poured all this money into it. I want to remind people that Joe Biden is still pushing for ESG for corporations.
So, of course, at the end there, he's talking about Silicon Valley Bank, and he's blaming it on the Democrats. He's blaming it on wokeness, like, hey, that's why the bank failed. No, Mark, and he's smart enough to know this. He knows it failed because of lack of regulation. A deregulation bill that Trump signed in 2018, which made it so that banks of SVB size don't need a stress test. You took away their rules about leverage. You took away their rules about having a stress test. They weren't diversified. They were way too invested in bonds. And as the interest rates went up, it became worth less and less and less. And then you had a bank run because the tech world had a crunch for money, and they needed to go pull money out of the Silicon Valley Bank in order to make payroll and things of that nature. I can't imagine being that dishonest when talking about that issue. Anyway, look, let's get past that one because that's low-hanging fruit. That's easy. This guy, at the beginning, you heard him say, hey, at least Mussolini got the trains to run on time. Yeah, so Joe Biden is he's doing worse than Mussolini. Is that really your argument, man? Do you really believe that? Actually, you know what, Mark? Don't answer that. Because he might be like, yes, I actually like Benito Mussolini. I like how my Mark Levin impression and my Ted Cruz impression are like exactly the same. I actually like Mussolini. Me. I'm Mark Levin. Me. He goes on to I like how he calls Biden a Marxist. If you think Joe Biden is a Marxist, you know nothing about political ideology and definitions. He's playing this Marxist crap about the rich versus the poor. I wish he was, Mark. I wish he was. I really do. He ain't doing that, dog. He says he's not a moderate. He's Bernie Sanders in Joe Biden's face mask. How based would that be if that were true, man? No, you know what Bernie Sanders would have done? He would have erased all student loan debt via executive order, not just the moderate amount that Joe Biden reduced. Bernie would try to get us Medicare for all, universal health care. Biden hasn't lifted a finger even to get us a public option. He would have gotten us free college and, wiped out the medical debt, for example. He would have gotten us a higher minimum wage. These are all things. No, Biden is a moderate, and he hasn't gotten us free college. He hasn't wiped out the medical debt. I mean, the list goes on and on. Who are you? How do you see the world the way you apparently do? Joe Biden has a record of being one of the most conservative Democrats through his entire time in office, which, by the way, this is the funniest part to me. He's like, all this talk, pitting the rich against the poor, this doesn't get anything done. This doesn't fix crime. This doesn't fix the border. This doesn't lower gas prices. Guys, to each one of those examples, it doesn't fix crime. Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. It's a tough-on-crime bill. People on the left have criticized him for that, rightly so. He was like tough-on-crime Joe Biden. And you're acting like he's soft on crime. He does the things that you say you want, Mark Levin, and you still don't give him credit for it. It doesn't fix the border. He's doing a lot of Trump's policies vis-a-vis the border. Remain in Mexico, Title 42. He's been significantly to the right on the border. And again, he does what you want, and then you don't even give him credit for it. You pretend like he's in favor of open borders or whatever. And on the issue of gas prices, it was the Democrats who passed through the House an anti-price gouging bill on gas prices. And it was the Republicans who blocked it. And somehow you're blaming Joe Biden for the higher gas prices, which, by the way, they're not as high now as they were before. They have come down quite a bit, but it was the Republicans who blocked the bill to stop price gouging at the gas pump. So even the specific issues he brings up are issues that have been addressed in a way where he would prefer it more than me. He would like the policy direction more than me. He would like the crime bill. He would like being super tough on the border. I like the anti-price gouging bill. He acts like he cares about gas prices, but I'm sure he opposed that bill too. Why? Because he's free market fundamentalism. Ayn Rand is right. Don't let the government do anything good for working people. Jesus Christ. So the whole, it's just amazing. Like, I wish Joe Biden was Bernie Sanders. I wish. I really do. And that's not it. And just final point I'll make on this. When you say this Marxist crap about rich versus poor gets nothing done, it is literally the only frame of reference for politics that is a material analysis that does get something done. You want to know why, Mark Levin? There was a study that came out from the Rand Corporation a few years back. The top 1% has effectively stolen $50 trillion from the bottom 90%. There is a class war going on right now, but it's being waged by the rich against the poor. $50 trillion upward transfer of wealth. If you just kept the same pay disparity that we had in the 1970s of rich versus poor to today, the bottom 90%, every man, woman, and child in the bottom 90% would have an extra $1,144 in their pocket every month for the rest of their lives. So don't tell me this class stuff is not substantive. It is the only substantive approach to politics. After Trump passed his tax cut bill in, 2017, right after that, for the first time in our history, billionaires paid effectively a lower tax rate than working families. Could you imagine billionaires paying a lower effective tax rate than working families? That's psychotic. It used to be the case when the average CEO to worker pay was like 25 to 1. So the CEO would make 25 times more than the average worker. Now it's like 350 to 1. This guy has the nerve to besmirch class politics at a time when 80 to 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured when it comes to their health care. 45,000 Americans die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. Depending on what poll you look at, anywhere from like 60 to 80% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And this guy has the nerve to say class politics aren't substantive. It is the most substantive that there is. So please spare me. But, go ahead. Do more Mussolini apologia. Because I'm sure that'll win over the normies and the moderates. But look, I should be thanking these guys because they go so far right and get so insane that this makes anybody on the left look like perfectly reasonable. These guys are marching straight off a cliff. And in the case of Mark Levin, he looks proud of it. Oh, by the way, one more point on the tax increase thing. Hey, you're raising taxes, trillions of dollars. Mark, why don't you tell everybody who it is that's getting the tax increase? Please. I'll wait. He doesn't want to tell you that because he knows if he gives you the specifics, you'll actually support it. Even right-wing voters will support it. Polls show time and time again, people want to raise taxes on the wealthy. They want it to stay the same or go lower on working people. That's exactly what Biden's doing. For all of his flaws. There's not a single tax increase on anybody making $400,000 a year or less. Not a single one. Not a single one. One of the best parts of the Inflation Reduction Act was a 15% corporate minimum tax rate. Well, there have been, my whole life, there's been corporations that pay literally zero taxes. Some even get a negative tax rate, so they get a subsidy from the government. Biden changed that with a 15% corporate minimum tax rate. Now corporations have to pay, billion-dollar corporations have to pay at least 15%. That's where the tax hikes are coming from. That's where they're coming from. And you may have plans to raise the, lift the Social Security cap so rich people pay more into Social Security. That would be super based. A little higher marginal income tax rate. That would also be based. That's for very rich people. He doesn't want to tell you that part. He doesn't want to tell you that part. Who is being taxed and what the money's going towards. Because if he told you that part, then people would realize, oh, wait, Biden's actually being perfectly reasonable there. And it turns out the guy who's praising Mussolini is not being all that reasonable. Wow, shocker. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.